stop reacting. Stop explaining. Stop shouting to be heard. The world doesn't respect noise. It respects control. Control over your words, your actions, your presence. Command isn't loud. Command is silent. And today, you will learn how to move through life, unseen but unstoppable. Every choice you make, every pause you take, every silent decision you enforce builds the power others chase and never catch. This is command without noise, and if you listen closely, you will never be powerless again.
Every moment you spend proving yourself is a moment stolen from your life. Every second wasted on explanations, justifications, and defenses is energy that could have been spent building, acting, creating, or winning. Let me tell you something right now. The world does not care about your explanations. The world does not reward your justifications. The world rewards results. The world rewards action. That is the hard truth. And you have a choice. You can keep proving, keep explaining, keep begging for approval, or you can stop all that noise and start doing. Think about the people you admire, the CEOs, the entrepreneurs, the athletes, the leaders. How many of them spend their days explaining why they deserve success? None. They don't need to. They act, they execute, they move, they produce results, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. And that is exactly why they dominate while others argue, debate, and waste energy defending their worth. Action speaks. Action never begs. And action never needs an explanation. Remember that. Repeat it to yourself. Action speaks. Action never begs. Here's the first step. Stop seeking permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need anyone's nod of recognition. Stop asking, stop explaining, stop defending. Do what you need to do. Take the steps required to achieve your goals. Every moment you spend defending yourself is a moment you could have spent executing. Every excuse you offer is a distraction. Every argument you make is a waste. You have a choice, action or excuses. That's the key. It's that simple. Look at the real-world examples. Some of the most successful leaders in history, the ones we study and quote, they all followed this principle. Take Elon Musk, for instance. Critics said he would fail. They questioned his ideas. They doubted him. Did he stop? No. Did he waste energy trying to convince them? No. He acted. He built. He executed. And today, the results speak louder than any critic ever could. You see, action is louder than explanation. Action is louder than opinion. And that is exactly the power you must harness. Action speaks. Action never begs. Now, let's bring it closer to you. Every time you explain yourself, you are putting your energy into someone else's judgment. That energy is gone. You cannot get it back. Every time you justify your choices, your time, your skills, your ideas, you are giving away control. And control is power. Power is action. When you act instead of explaining, you are reclaiming that power. You are making progress. You are moving forward. And that is exactly what this chapter is about. Reclaiming your energy, reclaiming your power, and choosing action over validation. Repeat after me. I will act. I will not explain. I will not beg. Let me be blunt. People will always judge. People will always criticize. People will always doubt. That is guaranteed. You cannot control their opinion. You can only control yourself. That is the truth most people refuse to accept. But not you, not today. You are listening to this because you are ready to take control. You are ready to act. You are ready to stop proving and start doing. And the first step is simple. Stop wasting your time on the wrong things. Stop defending yourself in meetings, on social media, or in personal conversations. Stop explaining your worth. Stop proving your intelligence, your capability, your ambition. Instead, act, build, execute, deliver results. That is your new strategy. That is your new power. That is your discipline. Here's the practical part. Start small, start now. Identify one area of your life where you are constantly defending yourself or proving your worth. It could be at work, at home, or online. Right now, commit to action instead of explanation. Deliver results. Show up, produce, execute. Don't announce it, don't justify it. Let the results speak for themselves. The magic happens when people realize what you are capable of, not because you told them, but because they see it. Repeat this again. Action speaks. Action never begs. Let this mantra guide you every day. Let it shape your decisions, your priorities, your energy. And here's the truth that separates winners from everyone else. People who constantly defend themselves live small. They react, they waste energy, they exhaust themselves trying to convince others of their value. Winners, leaders, those who command respect, don't do that. They act. They do what matters. They conserve energy for action. They know that execution is their language, execution is their power, and execution is always louder than words. Remember this. Action speaks. Action never begs. Now, let's address the common flaw many people fall into. You think if you explain enough, argue enough, or justify enough, people will recognize your worth. That's not true. It's not about proving, it's about discipline. Discipline in your actions, discipline in your focus, discipline in your energy. Stop proving, start doing. That's the principle. That's the key. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need agreement. You need action. You need execution. You need discipline. And that's how you create results that can't be ignored. Think of your life as a scoreboard. Every action adds points. Every explanation subtracts them. Every justification wastes them. Stop wasting your points. Start scoring. Execute relentlessly. Make each moment count. Make each decision count. Make each step forward count. That's your choice. That's your power. That's your command. Repeat it one last time. Action speaks. Action never begs. So here's the final thought for this chapter. Stop proving, stop defending, stop explaining. Reclaim your energy. Channel it into action. Make your presence felt through results, not words. Let your execution speak for you. Every project, every goal, every ambition, it's yours to take. You have a choice, and the choice is simple. Act or be consumed by excuses. That's the key. That's the principle. That's the first command of this book. Command without noise.
Listen carefully. Words are cheap. Words are easy. Words can be thrown at anyone. Opinions are cheap. Explanations are cheap. But silence? Silence is priceless. Silence is power. Silence commands attention in a way words never can. The quieter you are, the heavier your presence. That is the truth. And you have a choice. You can keep talking, explaining, defending, proving yourself, or you can learn the weapon of silence and dominate without making a sound. That's the key. The world is filled with noise, meetings full of people repeating what everyone already knows, social media overflowing with opinions, conversations clouded with constant chatter, and in the middle of it, the one who remains silent, the one who watches, who waits, who chooses the right moment, holds the real power. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is dominance. Repeat this to yourself. The quieter you are, the heavier your presence. Now, let's break it down. Silence has several layers of power. First, it commands respect. People are naturally drawn to those who do not feel the need to speak to prove their worth. Think of a top executive in a boardroom who listens more than they speak. Every word they utter carries weight because it is rare, deliberate, and precise. Contrast that with the person who talks constantly, explains themselves endlessly, and seeks approval at every turn. Who do you notice more? Who carries authority? That's right, the one who commands through silence. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You only need your presence, and that presence grows stronger in the absence of noise. Second, silence amplifies observation. When you are quiet, you see everything others miss. You notice patterns. You understand hidden agendas. You hear what is not being said. Successful negotiators, military leaders, and influential figures use silence as a radar. They don't fill the room with chatter. They let the room reveal itself to them. And that is where the real advantage lies. You have a choice. You can keep talking and miss the truth, or you can remain silent and gain the edge. That's the key. Silence is a weapon because it allows you to understand more than anyone else. Repeat it. The quieter you are, the heavier your presence. Third, silence creates tension. Strategic silence forces others to reveal themselves. Think about a negotiation. You make your offer and then stop talking. The other side begins to fill the void. They expose their weaknesses. They show their desperation. They reveal information you could never get if you had spoken first. That is power. That is control. That is discipline. It's not about being rude. It's not about intimidation. It's about strategy. And it's about winning without shouting, without arguing, without begging. Repeat this again. Silence is your weapon. Use it. Master it. Now, let's talk about application. Here's what you must do. Start small. Identify situations in your life where you speak too much. Meetings, personal conversations, online debates. Choose one situation and practice the discipline of silence. Listen, observe, wait. Only speak when your words will create maximum impact. Stop interrupting. Stop filling every pause. Stop reacting instantly. You have a choice, chatter or command. That's the key. You don't need their permission to choose power. You don't need their validation to control the room. You only need self-discipline, and that is non-negotiable. Here's the behavioral instruction that separates amateurs from leaders. Learn the pause. In conversations, after someone asks a question, wait. Let the silence linger. Let them gauge the discomfort of uncertainty. Let them lean forward to hear your next words. In negotiations, let every offer sit in silence before you speak. In meetings, listen more than you talk. In conflict, resist the urge to justify yourself immediately. That pause is your power. Repeat, the quieter you are, the heavier your presence. Let that guide your every interaction. Let that guide your every decision. Let that guide your every action. Silence also protects your energy. Every word you speak expends it. Every argument you enter drains it. Every time you feel the need to prove yourself, you give your power away. Silence preserves it. It directs it. It channels it towards action. You don't need to waste energy convincing others of your worth. You only need to act with precision. That is discipline. That is authority. That is command. Repeat. The quieter you are, the heavier your presence. Remember it, live it, own it. So, here's the takeaway. Silence is not absence. Silence is power. Silence is observation. Silence is strategy. Silence is energy preservation. Silence is command. You have a choice. Continue to talk endlessly, fill the room with noise and waste your energy, or learn to harness the weapon of silence. That's the key. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You only need discipline. You only need control. You only need action through quiet authority.
Listen closely. Observation is power. Most people rush to react. They jump to respond. They speak before they understand. They act before they see. And that is why they fail. You, on the other hand, have a choice. You can rush like everyone else, or you can watch. You can notice. You can see the patterns others miss. That's the key.
It's not about speed, it's about vision. It's not about noise, it's about awareness. It's not about reaction, it's about discipline. See first, speak last. Think about history. Military leaders who dominate, who win wars, who command respect, they do not move blindly. They watch, they wait, they gather information. They notice patterns in the enemy's behavior. They notice what others overlook. And then, once they understand, they act swiftly, decisively, unstoppably. That is power. That is strategy. That is discipline. And that is the principle you must master. Repeat it now. See first, speak last. Here's the first truth. Most people act without seeing. They rush into conversations without understanding motives. They respond to criticism without context. They attack problems without observing the situation. And they pay the price. They fail. They lose influence. They waste energy. You have a choice. Be like them and follow the crowd, or rise above. That's the key. You don't need their permission to be observant. You don't need validation to see clearly. Observation is your weapon. Discipline is your edge. Repeat, see first, speak last. Let's make this practical. Begin with awareness exercises. In your next meeting, pause, listen, observe. Watch the tone, the gestures, the energy. Notice who dominates, who hesitates, who reacts impulsively. Absorb information silently. Don't respond immediately. Don't speak just to fill space. Collect, analyze, understand. That is how leaders gain advantage. That is how you gain advantage. Repeat, see first, speak last. Observation extends beyond human behavior. It applies to systems, patterns, environments, and routines. The most successful investors, entrepreneurs, and strategists watch trends before everyone else reacts. They anticipate movements. They prepare strategies. They exploit opportunities that others miss because they were too busy reacting. You have a choice. React like everyone else and follow the noise, or watch and lead the flow. That's the key. Discipline over chaos. Observation over impulse. Repeat it. See first. Speak last. Now, let's talk about the mindset. Watching is not passive. It is active control. It is awareness paired with intention. It is patience combined with strategy. When you watch, you are not weak. You are strong. You are not timid. You are calculating. You are not avoiding action. You are preparing the right action. The world mistakes noise for strength, volume for power, but true command comes from understanding what is happening before acting. Repeat it again. See first, speak last. Here's the common flaw most people fall into. They think reacting quickly is equivalent to winning. They think immediate responses display confidence. They think saying something first proves dominance. That's a lie. It's not about haste, it's about insight. It's not about reaction, it's about discipline. See first, understand first, then act. That is how influence is earned. That is how power is built. That is how command without noise works. You have a choice. Follow impulse or exercise observation. That's the key. Here's how to transform this principle into daily behavior. Step 1. Practice scanning. In any situation, work, social interactions, family dynamics, observe before contributing. Notice who is emotionally charged. Notice who is silent. Notice patterns of behavior over time. Step 2. Document observations mentally. Keep track of tendencies, track reactions, track strengths and weaknesses. Step 3. Act only when your understanding gives you leverage. Don't act blindly. Don't respond immediately. Let others expose themselves through their actions. Your observation creates advantage. Your observation creates leverage. Repeat, see first, speak last. Another powerful method is the pause before reply. In any conversation, take a deliberate moment before answering. Not a nervous pause, a calculated pause. Use that time to assess, to process, to analyze.
Too many people respond instantly. They reveal themselves. They lose power. You, however, will use silence as a shield and observation as your sword. Every pause adds weight to your words. Every pause adds authority to your presence. Every pause builds power. Repeat after me. See first. Speak last. Let's bring in a real-world case. Consider generals who win wars not because of brute force, but because of vision. They study the terrain. They study the enemy. They notice patterns invisible to everyone else. They wait for the perfect moment to strike. They succeed where others fail because they see first and act decisively. This is exactly what you must do in your life. Study the situation. Study the people. Study the environment. Act when you have the advantage. That is command. That is discipline. Repeat. See first. Speak last. Remember this. Observation protects you from mistakes. Observation increases efficiency. Observation increases power. Acting without seeing is reckless. Acting without understanding is weak. Acting impulsively is costly. You have a choice, blind reaction or disciplined observation. That's the key. You don't need their permission to gain insight. You don't need approval to act with precision. Observation is the foundation of silent command. Repeat it once more. See first, speak last. Now, let's consolidate the lesson. Watching is a weapon. Watching is not passive. Watching creates leverage. Watching allows you to move when others are still guessing. Watching ensures your actions have maximum impact. Watching gives you clarity. Watching grants control. Watching builds authority. And the quieter you observe, the heavier your presence. Repeat, see first, speak last. Here's your takeaway for this chapter. Stop reacting immediately. Stop responding blindly. Stop assuming you know enough. Start observing. Start noticing. Start understanding patterns. Every moment spent watching is a moment spent gaining advantage. Every moment spent seeing is a moment spent building influence. Every moment spent observing positions you ahead of the crowd. That is discipline. That is control. That is command. You have a choice. Choose observation.
Listen carefully. Urgency is a trap. The moment you feel rushed, you lose control. Panic is weakness disguised as action. Most people run around like headless chickens, reacting to every ping, every message, every demand. They believe speed equals power. They are wrong. You have a choice. You can chase the chaos, or you can rise above it. That's the key. It's not about reacting fast. It's about reacting smart. It's not about panic. It's about discipline. Calmness equals leverage. Think about it. The most successful investors, leaders, and negotiators rarely act out of panic. They wait, they observe, they evaluate, they bide their time. And when they act, it's decisive, calculated, and unstoppable. Warren Buffett didn't panic during market crashes. He waited, he watched, he struck at the perfect moment. Investors who panic lose millions. Investors who wait quietly, those are the ones who win. You have a choice. Panic and lose, or wait and dominate. That's the key. Calmness equals leverage. Here's the first truth. Urgency is usually imaginary. It exists in your mind, not in reality. Deadlines are flexible if you plan properly. Opportunities do not disappear if you pause and prepare. Most people let imagined urgency dictate their decisions, and that is how they lose control of their lives, their work, and their relationships. You don't need to follow that pattern. You don't need their permission to slow down. Discipline is stronger than haste. Strategy outweighs frantic action. Repeat after me. Calmness equals leverage. Let's break it down further. People who act in haste make mistakes. They misread signals. They overcommit. They miscommunicate. They burn bridges. They exhaust themselves. You have a choice. Act hastily and pay the price, or remove the urgency and gain control. That's the key. The moment you choose calm, you reclaim power. The moment you choose patience, you control outcomes. The moment you wait and observe, you move with advantage. Repeat, calmness equals leverage. Now, let's talk about application. Step 1. Recognize your triggers. When do you feel rushed? Is it in meetings, deadlines, negotiations, social pressures? Write them down. Identify the moments when urgency tempts you to act impulsively. Awareness is the first step. Step 2. Implement pauses. Literally count to 3, 5, or 10 before responding. Even a brief pause interrupts the automatic reaction of panic. Step 3. Breathe. Slow, deliberate breaths center your mind. They give you clarity. Calmness is a choice you make before you act. Repeat it. Calmness equals leverage. Here's a real-world scenario. Imagine a stock market crash. Prices plummet. Panic spreads. Most investors sell instantly, terrified of losing more. But the disciplined investor, they sit quietly. They observe the trend. They evaluate the data. They wait. And then they buy strategically, acquiring assets at a fraction of their value. One choice, panic versus calm, determined millions of dollars. That's exactly how leverage works in life. You have a choice, chaos or control. That's the key. Calmness equals leverage. Urgency also distorts judgment. When rushed, people make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. They react to fear, not facts. They chase results instead of building systems. You have a choice. Follow the crowd and react emotionally, or remove the urgency and think strategically. That's the key. Discipline over instinct, clarity over chaos. Repeat, calmness equals leverage. Here's a behavioral instruction you can apply today. The intentional wait. Before responding to any important email, message, or request, wait. Don't respond immediately. Don't react to the pressure of others' timelines. Take time to think, assess the situation, plan your move. By waiting, you gain clarity. By waiting, you gain control. By waiting, you gain power. Repeat, calmness equals leverage. Another aspect to understand, urgency is contagious. People around you often try to push you into panic. Colleagues, friends, clients, they all want immediate responses. Most people give in. Most people react. You don't have to. You have a choice. Stay calm, stay composed, stay disciplined. Observe without reacting. That's the difference between leaders and followers. That's the difference between command and chaos. Repeat it. Calmness equals leverage. Let's address the common flaw, impatience disguised as ambition. Many people rush because they believe speed equals success. They think acting fast proves they are capable. That's a lie. Real success requires control. Real authority requires patience. Real influence requires composure. Acting calmly does not make you weak. It makes you strategic. It makes you dominant. You have a choice. Follow the impulse or follow the discipline. That's the key. Repeat, calmness equals leverage. Now, let's consolidate your lesson. Remove your urgency. Observe first. Pause before acting. Evaluate every choice. Breathe. Wait. Control your energy. Control your time. Control your actions. Each deliberate pause increases your leverage. Each calm decision builds influence. Each measured action amplifies your presence. That is the principle of command without noise. You have a choice, panic or power. That's the key. Calmness equals leverage. Here's the final exercise for this chapter. Identify one area of your life today where you feel rushed or pressured. It could be a project, a conversation, or a personal goal. Apply the intentional wait. Step back, observe, think, plan, then act with precision. No frantic moves, no blind reactions. Just discipline, just control, just power. Repeat, calmness equals leverage. You mastered observation, you mastered silence, you mastered restraint. Now it's time to master your tempo. Remove urgency and watch how control flows naturally. You have a choice. You have the power.
Listen carefully. Seeking approval is a trap. Most people live their lives trying to be liked. They want nods, validation, recognition, applause. They bend, they explain, they compromise, and in doing so, they give away their power. You have a choice. You can keep chasing approval, or you can take control. That's the key. It's not about being liked. It's about discipline. It's not about pleasing others. It's about authority. Respect is earned in silence. Here's the truth most people refuse to face. Validation is addictive. Once you start needing it, it controls you. You begin to act for others, not for yourself. You lose focus on what truly matters. You start reacting to criticism instead of acting on principles. You let fear of judgment dictate your life. That is weakness. That is surrender. That is wasted potential. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You only need your discipline. Repeat after me. Respect is earned in silence. Let's take a real-world example. Innovators, pioneers, leaders, they were ignored at first. People doubted them. Critics mocked them. Society dismissed their ideas. Yet they continued to act, continued to build, continued to create, ignoring the noise. Steve Jobs? Critics called him impossible. Elon Musk? People laughed at his vision. They didn't seek approval. They acted, and eventually they became unstoppable. That's the principle. You have a choice. Surrender to criticism or focus on action. That's the key. Respect is earned in silence. Now let's bring this closer to your life. Every time you explain yourself, justify your decisions, or seek approval, you give your power away. Every time you ask permission or look for validation, you are surrendering control. Discipline is the antidote. Discipline allows you to act without needing others' nods. Discipline allows you to focus on results, not reactions. Discipline allows you to command without noise. Repeat it. Respect is earned in silence. Here's the first actionable step. Recognize your approval habits. When do you seek validation? Is it in work, relationships, social media, or personal decisions? Identify the moments when you bend, explain, or apologize unnecessarily. Awareness is the first step. Step 2. Stop explaining. Not gradually, not occasionally, immediately. Stop rationalizing your choices to everyone else. Your actions are enough. Your results are enough. Repeat. Respect is earned in silence. Here's the second step. Embrace criticism without reaction. When someone judges you, doesn't like you, or disagrees, don't respond immediately. Don't argue. Don't defend. Observe. Learn if there's truth. Discard if there's noise. Every response fueled by fear of judgment diminishes your power. Every choice made independently reinforces it. You have a choice. React to opinion or act from authority. That's the key. Respect is earned in silence. Here's the mindset shift. Stop measuring your worth by others' recognition. Your value is independent of applause, likes, or compliments. Your authority comes from your presence, your results, your discipline. Leaders are not loved by everyone. They are respected. Innovators are not understood by everyone. They are followed. Seek approval and you dilute your impact. Reject it and you amplify it. Repeat, respect is earned in silence. Let's apply this practically. Take one area of your life where you feel judged or insecure. It could be a project, a personal goal, or a social situation. From today, act without looking for nods, likes, or validation. Make decisions based on principles, not opinions. Take action because it is right, not because it will please others. Each time you resist the urge to seek approval, you reclaim power. Each time you act without seeking validation, you grow authority. Repeat, respect is earned in silence. Here's the other behavioral exercise, the approval audit. For 1 week, track every moment you seek permission, justify choices, or try to win acceptance. Then consciously stop each time you catch yourself. Replace it with action. Replace it with execution. Replace it with discipline. You will feel the shift immediately. Your energy returns. Your focus sharpens. Your presence strengthens. You have a choice, approval or authority. That's the key. Respect is earned in silence. Let's address the common flaw, fear of rejection.
Many people think that if they act independently, they will lose relationships, opportunities, or influence. That's false. True influence comes from confidence. True respect comes from consistency and discipline. People may disagree, criticize, or doubt, but that does not diminish your power. You have a choice: bend to fear or stand in authority. That's the key. Repeat, respect is earned in silence. Here's the final insight. Stopping approval seeking doesn't mean you are disconnected or unempathetic. It means you are disciplined. It means you act with clarity. It means your energy is reserved for creation, execution, and control, not for appeasement. You master your environment by mastering your need for validation. That is command without noise. That is power in action. Repeat one last time. Respect is earned in silence. You mastered calm. You mastered observation. You mastered restraint. Now you master independence. Stop seeking approval. Stop bending to others. Stop reacting to judgment. Reclaim your energy. Reclaim your power. Make every action deliberate. Make every decision your own. You have a choice.
Listen carefully. Words are power, but most people waste them. They talk to fill silence. They talk to be liked. They talk to justify themselves. They chatter. They babble. And in doing so, they dilute their influence. You have a choice. You can keep talking endlessly, or you can learn to speak less and mean more. That's the key. It's not about volume. It's not about quantity. It's about precision. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Here's the first truth. Speaking too much diminishes authority. When you over-explain, people notice your need for approval. When you ramble, your message is lost. When you fill every silence, you lose presence. Leaders, powerful figures, and those who command respect do the opposite. They are deliberate. They are concise. They measure their words like currency. That is influence. That is command. That is discipline. Repeat after me. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Let's take a real-world example. CEOs in boardrooms, negotiators in high-stakes deals, politicians who dominate. They all know this rule. They speak only when their words carry weight. They do not respond to every comment. They do not interrupt. They let silence work in their favor. They allow others to reveal more than they themselves reveal. That is power. That is strategy. That is authority. You have a choice. Speak endlessly and blend into the noise, or speak sparingly and command attention. That's the key. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Now, let's break this down for your life. Step 1. Audit your speech. Track when you speak unnecessarily. When do you fill silence with small talk? When do you over-explain? When do you justify your choices verbally instead of letting your actions speak? Awareness is the first step. Step 2, pause before speaking. Evaluate whether your words carry impact. Step 3, condense. Express ideas in sharp, clear statements. Eliminate fluff. Every word must earn its place. Repeat, every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Here's the mindset shift. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strategy. A pause is not weakness, it is leverage. Speaking less is not cowardice, it is precision. Condensed communication demonstrates confidence, authority, and clarity. When others speak in noise, you stand out through restraint. You create presence. You demand attention. That is influence. That is command. Repeat it. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Let's get practical. Start with one conversation today. Before you speak, ask yourself, does this add value? If the answer is no, stay silent. Observe, listen, absorb. Let your words come only when they carry impact. Over time, people will notice. They will respect your restraint. They will lean in to hear your next statement. That is how influence is earned. That is how authority is built. Repeat, every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Here's another powerful tool, the one-sentence rule. In professional communication, limit your initial response to a single, impactful sentence. Let that sentence be precise, factual, and decisive. Observe reactions. Expand only if necessary. Most people reveal too much in one go. They give away their power. You consolidate influence by controlling the narrative. You have a choice: waste in words or gain in impact. That's the key. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Another layer to understand: speaking less also protects energy. Every unnecessary word drains mental focus. Every over-explanation reduces clarity. Every impulsive comment invites argument. By condensing speech, you conserve energy for execution. You conserve energy for action. You conserve energy for results. That is discipline. That is authority. That is command without noise. Repeat after me. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Now, let's tackle a common flaw: fear of silence. Many people believe that if they don't speak, they won't be noticed. They panic in quiet moments. They fill every gap with words. That is weakness. That is surrender. True authority does not need constant noise. True influence does not beg for attention. Silence allows your presence to resonate. Silence gives weight to your actions. Silence sharpens your voice when it matters. Repeat. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Here's another real-world behavioral instruction. In your next meeting, practice strategic silence. Listen more than you speak. Allow others to fill gaps. Make notes of their patterns, priorities, and weaknesses. Only speak when your statement creates maximum impact. Pause intentionally. Deliver precision. Watch your influence grow. That is power. That is command. That is discipline. You have a choice: talk to blend in or speak to dominate. That's the key. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Another layer to understand: speaking less also protects energy. Every unnecessary word drains mental focus. Every over-explanation reduces clarity. Every impulsive comment invites argument. By condensing speech, you conserve energy for execution. You conserve energy for action. You conserve energy for results. That is discipline. That is authority. That is command without noise. Repeat after me. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Now, let's tackle a common flaw: fear of silence. Many people believe that if they don't speak, they won't be noticed. They panic in quiet moments. They fill every gap with words. That is weakness. That is surrender. True authority does not need constant noise. True influence does not beg for attention. Silence allows your presence to resonate. Silence gives weight to your actions. Silence sharpens your voice when it matters. Repeat. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Here's a real-world behavioral instruction. In your next meeting, practice strategic silence. Listen more than you speak. Allow others to fill gaps. Make notes of their patterns, priorities, and weaknesses. Only speak when your statement creates maximum impact. Pause intentionally. Deliver precision. Watch your influence grow. That is power. That is command. That is discipline. You have a choice: talk to blend in or speak to dominate. That's the key. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Another layer to understand: speaking less also protects energy. Every unnecessary word drains mental focus. Every over-explanation reduces clarity. Every impulsive comment invites argument. By condensing speech, you conserve energy for execution. You conserve energy for action. You conserve energy for results. That is discipline. That is authority. That is command without noise. Repeat after me. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies. Now, let's consolidate. Speak less, mean more. Condense your words into power. Measure every statement. Eliminate fluff. Let silence amplify your presence. Let precision elevate your influence. Let every conversation, every email, every discussion carry weight. You have a choice: drown in noise or stand out in silence. That's the key. Every word counts. Every pause amplifies.
You mastered independence. You mastered calm. You mastered observation. Now master the precision of your words, condense speech, command presence, influence without effort. You have a choice.
Listen closely. Your environment dictates your energy. Most people let it dictate their choices. They react to chaos. They follow distractions. They let other people set the tone, the pace, the agenda. That is weakness. That is surrender. You have a choice. You can be passive or you can take control. That's the key. It's not about luck. It's not about who shouts the loudest. It's about shaping the space, the conversation, and the people around you. Control surrounds you before you move. Let's start with the truth. Power is context. Top negotiators, CEOs, military leaders, and influential people don't just enter a room. They assess it. They adapt it. They shape it. They control the energy before a single word is spoken. A simple example, a negotiator rearranges chairs to assert dominance. They control the lighting, the positioning, the flow of information. Every detail reinforces authority. That is strategy. That is preparation. That is discipline. Repeat after me. Control surrounds you before you move. Here's the first insight. Your immediate surroundings shape your behavior. Messy, chaotic spaces sap focus. Noisy, uncontrolled environments trigger reactive impulses. People around you influence your emotional state. Distractions reduce effectiveness. Leaders understand this. They engineer their surroundings to support focus, calm, and authority. That is not overthinking. It is strategy. That is not obsession. It is preparation. It is discipline. You have a choice. Let the environment control you or control it. That's the key. Repeat. Control surrounds you before you move. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Evaluate your physical environment. Your office, your workspace, your home, your car. Remove clutter. Organize strategically. Place yourself where you have visibility and authority. Control light, temperature, and seating. Every adjustment amplifies presence. Every choice of space conveys discipline. Every organized detail signals command. Repeat. Control surrounds you before you move. Step 2. Control the conversation. Enter meetings with an agenda. Shape the flow of dialogue. Ask questions that guide the discussion. Pause strategically. Listen more than you speak, but when you do speak, make it impactful. Don't react impulsively to chaos in conversation. Control the pace. Control the narrative. Control influence. You have a choice. Follow the conversation blindly or lead it decisively. That's the key. Repeat. Control surrounds you before you move. Step 3. Control the people around you. Influence comes from energy alignment. Surround yourself with competent, disciplined individuals. Limit exposure to chronic complainers, drama seekers, and toxic voices. This doesn't mean avoiding challenges. It means choosing which battles and influences you allow near you. Leaders are architects of social and professional environments. You shape influence, not just respond to it. Repeat. Control surrounds you before you move. Here's a real-world scenario. Top negotiators don't just walk into a room and hope for success. They plan the seating. They understand power dynamics. They know who dominates conversations. They position allies strategically. They limit distractions. By controlling the environment, they gain leverage before a single word is spoken. That is authority. That is command. That is discipline. You have a choice. Enter chaos blindly or shape it before it affects you. That's the key. Repeat. Control surrounds you before you move. Let's address another layer. Emotional environment. You control your mental state before engaging with others. Calmness, focus, and clarity are not accidental. They are engineered. Deep breaths, visualization, mental rehearsal, these are tools to master your inner space. Reactivity is failure. Composure is power. Your internal environment dictates external influence. You don't need permission to command your energy. You don't need validation to maintain control. Repeat. Control surrounds you before you move. Here's a behavioral exercise. Before entering any important setting, Meeting, negotiation, social interaction. Pause. Survey the space. Assess dynamics. Adjust if possible. Position yourself advantageously. Control distractions. Command attention subtly through presence and preparation. Enter with authority already established. That is preparation. That is strategy. That is discipline. Repeat. Control surrounds you before you move. Another critical point. Timing is environment. Know when to act. Know when to speak. Know when to move. The environment isn't just physical, it's temporal. Acting too early or too late diminishes power. Waiting strategically maximizes impact. Watching, analyzing, and choosing the moment is mastery. You have a choice. Act impulsively or act strategically. That's the key. Repeat, control surrounds you before you move. Let's tackle a common flaw. Passivity disguised as humility. Many people wait for the environment to dictate terms, claiming they are open-minded or adaptable. That is surrender. Leaders shape their world. They do not wait for it to shape them. Adapting is tactical. Reacting is weakness. Preparation is power. Discipline over chaos. That is command without noise. Repeat, control surrounds you before you move. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Control your physical space, control your conversation, control your people, control your timing, control your energy. Influence the environment before you act, and your actions carry exponential weight. Every detail you shape reinforces authority. Every adjustment you make amplifies leverage. Every pause, every placement, every decision multiplies presence. You have a choice. Be reactive or be commanding. That's the key. Repeat, control surrounds you before you move. You mastered speech. You mastered independence. You mastered calm and observation. Now, master the space around you. Shape it, engineer it, command it. Your environment will no longer dictate your influence, it will amplify it. You have a choice.
Listen carefully. Words matter, but energy dominates. Most people react to words alone. They ignore the unspoken currents, the subtle tension, the hidden agendas. That is weakness. That is vulnerability. You have a choice. You can respond blindly to noise, or you can observe the energy. That's the key. Energy communicates more than speech ever will. Energy is louder than words. Energy reveals truth before anyone speaks it. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Here's the first truth. Top leaders and negotiators excel because they read energy. They feel the tension before the conversation begins. They sense the unspoken conflicts in a room. They detect hesitation, excitement, frustration, or fear, even if no one says a word, and they use that awareness to their advantage. Energy informs action. Energy signals opportunity. Energy warns of danger. You have a choice. Ignore it and react blindly, or notice it and command the room. That's the key. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Sharpen observation. Watch facial expressions, micro-movements, body posture, and breathing patterns. Step 2. Notice mood shifts. Subtle changes in tone, gesture, or energy reveal priorities, discomfort, or manipulation. Step 3. Listen beyond words. Pay attention to silences, interruptions, and pauses. The room speaks constantly, it just doesn't use sentences. You don't need permission to notice. Discipline yourself to feel what others only think they hide. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Here's a real-world example. In high-stakes negotiations, the most successful leaders sense when silence is more powerful than speech. Everyone else feels awkward. Everyone else panics. Everyone else fills the gaps with words. The disciplined observer knows. The pause reveals truth, weakness, or hesitation. The quiet leader waits, then speaks decisively. That moment defines authority. That moment defines control. That is discipline. You have a choice. Rush to speak or let energy guide your timing. That's the key. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Another truth, energy flows between people. Your own energy sets the tone.
Calm, composed, confident energy commands respect. Anxious, reactive energy invites chaos. Most people ignore their internal state, allowing external forces to dictate their presence. That is weakness. That is surrender. Control your energy and you influence every interaction. You don't need their permission to lead silently. You don't need validation to maintain presence. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Here's a behavioral instruction. In your next conversation, consciously assess energy first. Before speaking, feel the room. Identify tension, enthusiasm, resistance, or doubt. Adjust your approach accordingly. Speak only when your words amplify, not conflict with the energy present. This is subtle yet powerful. Most people never notice. Most people never adjust. You have a choice. Act without awareness or act with insight. That's the key. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Here's a mindset shift. Observing energy is not passive, it is strategic. You are not avoiding interaction, you are assessing reality. You are detecting opportunities, you are uncovering leverage. Every gesture, every glance, every pause is information. Most people ignore it. Most people misread it. But disciplined observers dominate. They influence outcomes before others even realize the game is started. You have a choice. Miss the signals or use them to command. That's the key. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Let's address a common flaw, reacting to words rather than feeling dynamics. Many people assume a confident tone means confidence. Many people assume laughter equals agreement. Many people assume silence is consent. That is flawed. That is reactive. That is predictable. True power comes from observing energy, not just what is said, not just what is written, but what flows between people. That is intelligence. That is authority. That is command without noise. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Here's another practical exercise, the energy pause. In meetings, presentations, or conversations, pause periodically and scan the room. Observe shifts in posture, micro-expressions, and engagement levels. Identify resistance or enthusiasm before responding. Adjust strategy based on observation. Speak only when it will amplify authority, influence outcomes, or command attention. Every word then carries maximum impact. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Here's a real-world case. Military leaders in strategy sessions rarely speak first. They observe the room, noting tension, hesitations, and unspoken priorities. Decisions are based on energy as much as information. Investors in volatile markets feel market sentiment before reacting. Negotiators sense leverage in silence. Energy is a language few understand, but those who do dominate effortlessly. You have a choice. Ignore it or master it. That's the key. Repeat, energy is louder than words. Now let's consolidate. Observe first, feel before you speak, sense the tension, detect unspoken agendas. Monitor your own energy and the energy around you. Silence, attention, and perception create leverage. Words alone rarely dictate outcomes. Energy does. Energy reveals truth before action. You have a choice. React blindly or move with precision. That's the key. Repeat, energy is louder than words. You mastered space, you mastered calm, you mastered influence and observation. Now master the flow of energy. Feel it, understand it, use it. Influence before speaking, lead without noise. Let your presence resonate.
Listen closely. Reacting without thought is surrendering your power. Most people act impulsively. They respond immediately to insults, criticism, or pressure. They lash out, they overcommit, they panic, and in that moment, they lose control. You have a choice. You can react blindly, or you can pause, observe, and act with authority. That's the key. It's not about impulse, it's about discipline. It's not about emotion, it's about strategy. Pause, then act, or lose. Here's the first truth. Uncontrolled reaction costs more than effort. It costs outcomes, influence, and respect. Historical examples abound. Generals who charged into battle out of anger or pride were defeated. Leaders who responded impulsively to critics lost credibility. Entrepreneurs who reacted to every market fluctuation wasted resources and opportunities. Every uncalculated reaction is a surrender. Every hasty response diminishes authority. Every uncontrolled impulse transfers power to others. You have a choice: act with strategy or act with chaos. That's the key. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Recognize your triggers. What situations provoke instant emotion? What words make your chest tighten or your pulse rise? Awareness is the first step. Step 2. Implement the pause. Literally count to 3, 5, or 10 before responding. Step 3. Assess before action. Evaluate the context, the consequences, and the desired outcome. Every pause restores power. Every moment of observation strengthens authority. Every calculated move asserts control. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. Here's a real-world scenario. Imagine a heated negotiation. An opponent insults your competence. Most people respond immediately with defensiveness, anger, or over-explanation. Authority slips, leverage evaporates, the outcome is compromised. The disciplined leader pauses, breathes, observes the energy in the room, chooses words that shift the conversation in their favor. The result is control, influence, and victory. The difference was not luck, it was discipline. You have a choice: react emotionally or act strategically. That's the key. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. Another truth: reacting too quickly signals weakness. People read impulsiveness as insecurity. They exploit it. They bait you into mistakes. They push buttons because they know you will respond. Discipline reverses this. Silence in the moment communicates control. Observation communicates authority. Calculated action communicates power. The more you pause before reacting, the stronger your presence becomes. You have a choice: surrender to impulse or command the outcome. That's the key. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. Here's a behavioral instruction. In your next interaction where you feel provoked, implement the 3-breath rule. Take 3 deep breaths. Assess your feelings. Observe the situation. Then choose your response deliberately. Not reactively, not emotionally, deliberately. Every unplanned reaction is a cost. Every pause restores your power. Every intentional action increases leverage. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. Let's address a common flaw. People mistake reaction for action. They believe responding immediately is decisive. It is not. Immediate reaction is impulsive. It is reactive. It is uncalculated. Action is measured. Action is strategic. Action maximizes results. Discipline over emotion. Clarity over chaos. You have a choice: react or act. That's the key. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. Historical examples reinforce this principle. Napoleon Bonaparte understood the cost of reacting. He waited, observed, and exploited enemy hesitation. Generals who acted in anger were crushed. Investors who panicked during financial crashes lost fortunes. Those who paused, analyzed, and acted deliberately gained advantage. Every decision made impulsively carries a hidden cost. Every pause multiplies leverage. Every calculated action secures outcomes. Repeat, pause,
then act, or lose. Here's another practical exercise, the response delay. For 1 week, identify every moment when your instinct is to react immediately. Emails, texts, criticism, interruptions. Before responding, pause. Wait intentionally. Observe your emotional state. Evaluate the situation. Then respond with authority. Not a word more, not a word less. Repeat. Pause. Then act, or lose. Now let's address a common flaw. People mistake reaction for action. They believe responding immediately is decisive. It is not. Immediate reaction is impulsive. It is reactive. It is uncalculated. Action is measured. Action is strategic. Action maximizes results. Discipline over emotion. Clarity over chaos. You have a choice. React or act. That's the key. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Identify triggers. Pause before responding. Observe the energy. Evaluate the consequences. Speak or act only when it amplifies your influence. Every hasty reaction costs power. Every controlled response creates leverage. Every calculated action communicates authority. Pause, then act, or lose. That is command without noise. That is influence without apology. That is mastery over self and situation. Repeat, pause, then act, or lose. You mastered observation. You mastered energy. You mastered space and presence. Now master your reaction. Do not surrender to impulse. Do not allow emotion to dictate action. Pause, then act. Choose discipline over chaos.
Listen closely. Presence outweighs speech. Dominance is shown, not told. Most people believe influence comes from words, arguments, or persuasion. They are wrong. Influence comes from energy, posture, confidence, and control. You have a choice. You can speak endlessly to prove yourself, or you can command silently through presence. That's the key. It's not about talking more. It's about standing taller. It's not about shouting louder. It's about holding ground. Presence is authority. Repeat. Presence is authority. Here's the first truth. People notice your energy before they hear your words. Celebrities, leaders, CEOs, they command attention without saying a word. Walk into a room with certainty. Stand without hesitation. Hold eye contact. Move deliberately. Control your breathing. Your energy communicates more than your speech ever could. That is influence. That is command. That is discipline. You have a choice. Fade into noise or dominate through presence. That's the key. Repeat. Presence is authority. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Control posture. Stand or sit with spine straight, shoulders back, and head high. Avoid fidgeting. Avoid slouching. Step 2. Control movement. Walk with intent. Enter spaces deliberately. Avoid rushing. Step 3. Control facial expressions. Neutral expressions project confidence. Calm expressions project authority. Every gesture communicates presence. Every pause reinforces influence. Repeat. Presence is authority. Here's a real-world example. Top celebrities do not need to argue to dominate an audience. Their posture, gaze, and confidence command attention immediately. Leaders in boardrooms do not need to shout to set the tone. Their presence alone asserts control. Negotiators rarely raise voices. They simply occupy space with authority. People respond first to presence, then to words. Presence is invisible influence. Presence is command without noise. Repeat, presence is authority. Another truth, controlling presence requires self-discipline. You cannot fake it. Nervous energy, hesitation, or insecurity undermines influence. Control comes from internal mastery. Calm your mind, control your breath, hold your center, observe the room without reacting impulsively. The more composed you are internally, the stronger your presence externally. You have a choice. Be reactive or be commanding. That's the key. Repeat, presence is authority. Here's a behavioral instruction. Before entering any interaction, pause for 3 seconds. Breathe deeply. Ground yourself. Visualize command. Walk into the room as if you already own it. Observe reactions silently. Let energy lead before words arrive. This subtle shift communicates authority without a single sentence. Repeat, presence is authority. Here's the mindset shift. Presence is not intimidation, it is control. You are not asserting dominance to belittle others. You are asserting control to influence outcomes. People will feel your energy before they hear your argument. They will respect your calm before they respect your instructions. Influence is invisible until it manifests. Presence is preparation. Presence is restraint. Presence is power. Repeat, presence is authority. Let's address a common flaw. Many people overcompensate by speaking too much or projecting artificial confidence. Loudness does not equal leadership. Words without presence are empty. Actions without presence are unnoticed. True authority is quiet. True dominance is subtle. The room reacts to those who hold ground, not those who plead for attention. You have a choice. Seek respect through noise or earn it through presence. That's the key. Repeat, presence is authority. Here's another practical exercise. Practice silent observation. Attend a meeting, social event, or gathering, and do not speak for the first 5 minutes. Observe energy, reactions, and dynamics. Stand or sit deliberately. Maintain calm breathing. Hold intentional eye contact. Notice how your presence alone changes interactions. People respond to confidence, not chatter. Repeat, presence is authority. Another layer to understand. Presence amplifies everything else you do. Silence, restraint, energy control, and strategic action are all reinforced when you maintain commanding presence. Without it, your actions, words, and discipline lose impact. With it, every gesture, every word, every pause multiplies influence. You have a choice: fade into background or dominate the moment. That's the key. Repeat, presence is authority. Now let's consolidate. Control posture, movement, and expression. Control breathing and internal state. Occupy space deliberately. Observe energy without reaction. Influence outcomes without words. Speak only when it amplifies your presence. Everything else is noise. Presence communicates authority before a word is uttered. Presence creates leverage before action. Presence commands respect without demand. Repeat, presence is authority. You mastered focus, energy, and restraint. You mastered observation and timing. Now master your presence. Let every step, every pause, every gaze reinforce your authority. Command through presence, influence without argument, lead without speaking first.
Listen closely. Over-explaining signals weakness. Most people feel the need to justify, clarify, and defend themselves constantly. They fill silence with words. They dilute authority with explanations. They mistake verbosity for competence. That is a mistake. That is vulnerability. You have a choice.
You can over-explain to prove value, or you can convey authority with brevity. That's the key. It's not about talking more, it's about speaking less with precision. Explain less, win more. Repeat, explain less, win more. Here's the first truth. Brevity commands respect. Leaders, executives, and top negotiators rarely over-explain. They answer concisely yet decisively. They respond to challenges with calm, focused words. They leave space for their authority to resonate. Silence after their statement carries weight. Their brevity signals mastery. Their restraint signals confidence. You have a choice. Dilute authority with unnecessary words or amplify it through precision. That's the key. Repeat, explain less, win more. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Recognize your tendency to over-explain. Notice when you justify decisions, apologize unnecessarily, or clarify points repeatedly. Step 2. Craft short, clear statements. Distill your message into a single, decisive line. Step 3. Stop before adding extra words. Let your statement stand alone. Let silence amplify your authority. Every word beyond necessity reduces power. Every pause reinforces command. Repeat, explain less, win more. Here's a real-world example. High-performing executives respond to challenging questions in a few words, yet achieve results. They do not ramble to persuade. They do not beg for agreement. They state the truth with clarity. The room listens. Influence is granted without effort. Authority is established without noise. Compare this to the over-explainer, long-winded, anxious, defensive, always seeking approval. Over-explaining diminishes respect. Brevity reinforces dominance. You have a choice. Dilute your authority or reinforce it with fewer words. That's the key. Repeat, explain less, win more. Another truth, over-explaining often stems from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of misunderstanding, fear of losing control. Discipline overcomes fear. Brevity signals confidence precisely because it requires mastery over impulse. When you resist the urge to clarify endlessly, you assert command silently. You do not need permission to hold your ground. You do not need validation to keep silent. Repeat, explain less, win more. Here's a behavioral instruction. In your next conversation or meeting, practice the one-line rule. Express your point in one decisive statement. Resist the urge to add context, justification, or examples immediately. Pause. Observe reactions. Let the power of brevity carry your authority. Only add words if necessary, never to persuade. Repeat, explain less, win more. Here's the mindset shift. Over-explaining is reactive. It is insecure. It invites interruption and argument. Brevity is proactive. It communicates clarity. It commands attention. It amplifies influence. Leaders speak when necessary and with impact. They pause to let authority resonate. Words are tools, not shields. Discipline over noise. Confidence over anxiety. You have a choice. Chatter to justify or speak to command. That's the key. Repeat, explain less, win more. Let's address a common flaw. People confuse information sharing with influence. They think providing endless reasoning builds credibility. It does not. Influence is not granted by volume. It is earned through presence, energy, and precision. Over-explaining weakens the perception of competence. Concise, deliberate statements establish power instantly. Observe carefully. Brevity communicates mastery. Over-explaining communicates insecurity. Repeat, explain less, win more. Another practical exercise, the one-line rule drill. When asked a question, stop. Count to 3 silently. Deliver your response in the fewest words possible. Notice reactions. Observe whether the outcome shifts with brevity.
Train yourself to resist filling silence unnecessarily. Every unnecessary word chips away at authority. Every calculated pause builds it. Repeat, explain less, win more. Here's a real-world application. In negotiations, over-explaining your position often invites counter-arguments and undermines leverage. Successful negotiators state their terms concisely. They pause. They let the other party react. The silence carries weight. The conversation bends toward their authority. Brevity enhances influence. Every additional explanation reduces control. You have a choice. Explain excessively or assert concisely. That's the key. Repeat, explain less, win more. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Identify the urge to over-explain. Replace it with brevity. Use short, precise statements. Pause to amplify authority. Observe reactions without adding words unnecessarily. Discipline your speech. Control energy. Command without noise. Influence without over-explanation. Brevity communicates competence. Over-explaining signals weakness. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat, explain less, win more. You mastered observation, you mastered energy, you mastered presence, you mastered patience and control. Now master your words. Speak with precision. Eliminate unnecessary explanations. Let silence amplify authority. Explain less, win more.
Listen closely. Your words carry weight. Every word is currency. Every sound has value. Most people spend words recklessly, over-explaining, justifying, or reacting emotionally. They waste influence. They dilute authority. They surrender control. You have a choice. You can spend words carelessly, or you can invest them strategically. That's the key. It's not about talking more, it's about talking with impact. Value every sound you make. Repeat, value every sound you make. Here's the first truth. Words are powerful only when they are deliberate. Lawyers in courtrooms, executives in boardrooms, and leaders in negotiation rooms understand this. One well-placed sentence can silence a room, shift momentum, and assert dominance. A careless word can destroy credibility, create confusion, or trigger conflict. Discipline over speech, thought over impulse, action over noise. You have a choice. Squander your words or wield them as currency. That's the key. Repeat, value every sound you make. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Measure before speaking. Ask yourself, will this add power, clarity, or influence? Step 2. Deliver deliberately. Speak concisely. Pause for effect. Step 3. Observe impact. Notice reactions. Adjust strategy silently. Every pause carries weight. Every carefully chosen word multiplies influence. Every sentence reinforces authority. Repeat, value every sound you make. Here's a real-world example. In high-stakes courtroom scenarios, a lawyer delivers a single line that reframes the entire case. Silence follows. Eyes shift. The room reacts. Authority is established without argument. Compare this to the untrained speaker. Too many words, explanations, and repetitions, diluting influence and confusing the audience. Words have value. Use them carefully. You have a choice. Speak to fill space or speak to assert control. That's the key. Repeat, value every sound you make. Another truth, your energy amplifies the impact of your words. Calm, confident, and deliberate speech signals authority. Hesitant, rushed, or emotional speech signals weakness. Every word carries more power when aligned with presence and intention. You don't need permission to command a room. You don't need validation to pause before speaking. Discipline ensures every word serves a purpose. Repeat, value every sound you make.
Here's a behavioral instruction. Implement the word audit. For one day, track every time you speak. Ask, does this add authority, clarity, or influence? If the answer is no, remain silent. Observe the difference in reactions. Notice how silence magnifies respect. Notice how carefully chosen words gain attention. Every unnecessary word is lost currency. Every deliberate word is investment. Repeat, value every sound you make. Here's the mindset shift. Speaking is not a reflex, it is strategy. Most people speak reactively. They respond impulsively to criticism, questions, or pressure. That is wasteful. That is surrender. Commanded speech is intentional. Strategic speech communicates mastery. Strategic pauses communicate authority. Strategic observation communicates dominance. Discipline over impulse. You have a choice. Speak carelessly or spend words wisely. That's the key. Repeat, value every sound you make. Let's address a common flaw. People overestimate the value of talking frequently. They assume that more words equals influence. They believe explanations, justifications, or commentary prove competence. It does not. Influence is earned through timing, energy, and precision. Authority is amplified when words are scarce, deliberate, and aligned with presence. Less is more. Brevity commands. Silence strengthens. Repeat, value every sound you make. Another practical exercise, the one-sentence rule. When asked a question, distill your answer into a single, precise sentence. Deliver it with calm authority. Pause. Observe reactions. Only expand if truly necessary. Every added word risks authority. Every concise statement strengthens presence. Every intentional pause builds leverage. Repeat, value every sound you make. Here's a real-world application. Top negotiators often remain silent for long stretches, observing energy, reading reactions, and waiting for the right moment. Then they speak. One sentence shifts the negotiation, secures the deal, and asserts control. Silence sets value. Speech delivers currency. Every word must earn its place. You have a choice. Waste words or invest them. That's the key. Repeat, value every sound you make. Now, let's consolidate the lesson. Words are currency. Spend them wisely. Pause before speaking. Choose sentences that assert authority, influence outcomes, or shift energy. Observe reactions. Adjust silently. Discipline your speech. Silence amplifies power. Brevity multiplies authority. Presence reinforces impact. Every word is an investment. Every careless word is lost influence. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat, value every sound you make. You mastered observation. You mastered energy. You mastered presence. You mastered patience, restraint, and deliberate action. Now, master your words. Speak with intention. Speak with precision. Speak to influence, not to prove. Let silence amplify your authority. Let every word carry weight. Command without noise. Influence without argument. You have a choice. That's the key. This is your final command. Repeat, value every sound you make.
Listen closely. Silence is power. Questions are tools. Combine both and you compel truth. Most people talk too much. They reveal themselves without realizing it. They give away intentions, weaknesses, and strategies. You have a choice. You can rush to fill silence, or you can wait, ask, and observe. That's the key. It's not about interrogating rudely. It's about using discipline and presence. Silence draws truth. Repeat, silence draws truth. Here's the first truth. When people speak under your calm observation, they reveal more than they intend. Skilled interrogators, negotiators, and leaders understand this. They ask simple, direct questions. Then they stay quiet. They let the other person fill the space, and the other person always does, impulsively, unconsciously. The information is given freely. Every unguarded word is insight. You have a choice: dominate with noise or control through silence. That's the key. Repeat, silence draws truth. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Prepare your questions. Be clear, concise, and direct. Avoid multiple questions at once. Step 2. Ask the question and remain silent. Resist the urge to clarify, repeat, or comment. Step 3. Observe carefully. Tone, posture, hesitation, and word choice all reveal intention. Every pause strengthens leverage. Every observation informs action. Repeat, silence draws truth. Here's a real-world example. Skilled negotiators in business meetings often ask one simple question: what is your bottom line? Then they remain silent. They do not nod, frown, or comment. The other party begins to justify, explain, and reveal information that strengthens the negotiator's position. Authority is established without pressure, without anger, without dominance. Control is achieved through silence and observation. You have a choice: react, interrupt, and miss information, or observe and gather advantage. That's the key. Repeat, silence draws truth. Another truth. This method works beyond negotiations. In everyday interactions, people disclose intentions, fears, and motives when left unchallenged in silence. Friends, colleagues, competitors, they all reveal more when you stop speaking. This requires discipline. Most people cannot tolerate silence. They rush to fill it. You do not. You control the space. You control the energy. You control outcomes. Repeat, silence draws truth. Here's a behavioral instruction. In your next conversation, implement the wait for the extra word rule. Ask your question, count to 5 silently, observe reactions. Take note of additional information revealed after your initial question. Most people speak more than necessary. Most people explain unnecessarily. You do not need to prompt further. Discipline wins. Repeat, silence draws truth. Here's the mindset shift. Control is not about speaking more. It's about listening strategically. Most people equate talking with influence. They are wrong. Influence is gathered through observation, interpretation, and patience. When you combine questions with silence, you create leverage. You gain insight without confrontation. You assert authority without argument. You have a choice: fill silence with noise or extract truth through discipline. That's the key. Repeat, silence draws truth. Let's address a common flaw: impatience. People rush to respond, interrupt, or help the conversation along. This destroys insight. It sacrifices authority. It wastes opportunity. True command requires restraint. Ask, pause, observe. Let them reveal themselves. The more you resist the urge to speak, the more control you gain. Repeat, silence draws truth. Another practical exercise: the mirror question technique. Ask a question, then mirror their energy silently. If they lean forward, hesitate, or shift posture, take note. Do not respond. Observe reactions. People inadvertently provide context, motives, and strategy through these subtle cues. Your silence is a tool. Your observation is a weapon. Repeat, silence draws truth. Here's a real-world application. In investigative work, law enforcement interrogators often ask a single, simple question, then remain motionless and quiet. The suspect fills the space. They reveal motives, alibis, and inconsistencies they never intended to share. Similarly, in negotiation, leadership, or strategy, this principle multiplies influence without confrontation. Discipline over reaction. Observation over assumption. Silence draws truth. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Prepare precise questions. Pause strategically. Observe tone,
posture and hesitation. Resist interruptions. Resist filling silence. Collect information silently. Leverage knowledge for influence. Every word they speak is currency. Every pause you maintain amplifies authority. Every revelation strengthens your position. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat. Silence draws truth. You mastered observation. You mastered energy. You mastered presence and patience. Now master the art of strategic silence. Ask, wait, watch. Let others reveal themselves. Gain leverage without conflict. Command without words. Influence without argument. Silence draws truth.
Listen closely. Chasing influence is weakness. Most people believe they gain power by pursuing attention, validation, or followers. They call, text, explain, justify, and plead. They try too hard. They overextend. They lose authority. You have a choice. You can chase approval, or you can cultivate stillness and command naturally. That's the key. It's not about forcing connection. It's about attracting it. Attract through stillness. Repeat, attract through stillness. Here's the first truth. People are drawn to confidence, not desperation. Social leaders, CEOs, and influencers who matter do not chase. They act independently. They make decisions without seeking permission or validation. Their actions, presence, and calm energy draw others to them naturally. When you chase, you signal neediness. When you wait, you signal mastery. You have a choice, overreach or attract. That's the key. Repeat, attract through stillness. Let's make this practical. Step 1, evaluate your interactions. Notice where you reach out excessively. Texts, calls, social media, explanations. Step 2, step back. Stop initiating excessively. Step 3, focus on your actions, energy, and presence. Lead your life with purpose. Engage selectively. Let others come to you. Your stillness communicates authority. Your patience signals confidence. Repeat, attract through stillness. Here's a real-world example. Successful entrepreneurs do not chase partnerships or clients frantically. They focus on building their product, mastering their craft, and maintaining discipline. Opportunities arrive naturally because their work commands attention. Contrast this with the frantic pursuer, eager, over-explaining, apologetic. Influence is given to those who embody control. You have a choice. Chase endlessly or command magnetically. That's the key. Repeat, attract through stillness. Another truth. Chasing often stems from fear. Fear of being ignored, forgotten, or replaced. Fear creates energy that repels others. Discipline over fear. Calm over anxiety. Focus over desperation. When you center yourself, you project strength. When you wait, you attract loyalty, attention, and influence. You don't need permission to hold your ground. You don't need validation to remain calm. Repeat, attract through stillness. Here's a behavioral instruction. In the next week, implement the pause initiative rule. Choose one relationship, one opportunity, or one conversation where you normally reach out first. Step back. Do not contact. Observe the outcome. Most will respond to your calm and composed energy. Most will respect your space and gravitate toward your influence. Every moment you resist chasing strengthens authority. Repeat, attract through stillness. Here's the mindset shift. Influence is a byproduct, not a pursuit. Most people pursue influence blindly, chasing likes, attention, or approval. That is futile. True command attracts naturally. Presence, discipline, energy, and restraint magnetize people. Stillness communicates value. Waiting communicates strength. Action without chasing communicates mastery. You have a choice. Beg for attention or earn it silently. That's the key. Repeat, attract through stillness. Let's address a common flaw: impatience. People expect immediate results. They overreach. They
call, text, over-explain, and justify. This destroys influence. Authority is built in silence, in action, in patience. Do not overcompensate with words or effort. Wait, lead, observe. Let attraction happen organically. Repeat, attract through stillness. Another practical exercise, the magnet test. Identify someone whose respect or influence you desire. Step back. Avoid initiating contact unnecessarily. Focus on your presence, energy, and actions instead. Notice if they engage without prompting. Most do. Most respond to composure, not desperation. Observe how stillness generates connection. Observe how waiting increases perceived value. Repeat, attract through stillness. Here's a real-world application. Social leaders, team captains, and influential figures often act independently. They do not chase followers or approval. They project confidence and competence. Their influence grows because of their actions, not their words. People naturally gravitate towards stability, strength, and calm. Chasing undermines authority. Stillness amplifies it. You have a choice. Chase endlessly or command magnetically. That's the key. Repeat, attract through stillness. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Identify where you chase. Step back. Focus on self-discipline, energy, and action. Avoid over-explaining or overreaching. Let presence and stillness draw others. Observe responses. Build authority silently. Influence will follow naturally. Every pause reinforces power. Every calm action multiplies impact. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat, attract through stillness. You mastered observation, energy, presence, silence, and the careful use of words. Now master the art of stillness. Stop chasing. Lead your life with purpose. Let others come to you. Influence is attracted, not pursued. Command without noise. Influence without effort. Attract through stillness.
Listen closely. Pause. That's right, pause. Most people speak too quickly, act too hastily, and decide without thought. They chase outcomes. They fill silence. They betray impatience. Every rush erodes authority. Every hasty word dilutes influence. You have a choice. You can act impulsively, or you can master the pause. That's the key. It's not about hesitating out of fear. It's about using timing as a weapon. Pause, pressure, power. Here's the first truth. Deliberate pauses amplify authority. In negotiation, leadership, and influence, timing is everything. A well-timed silence forces others to react. It creates pressure. It signals confidence. Sales leaders pause before the final offer. Executives pause before responding to demands. Political leaders pause before answering challenging questions. Each pause conveys control. You have a choice. Rush to speak or let silence work for you. That's the key. Repeat, pause, pressure, power. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Observe your speech patterns. Count how often you interrupt yourself or fill silence unnecessarily. Step 2. Practice deliberate pauses before answering questions, before responding to criticism, before making offers. Step 3. Note reactions. People unconsciously lean forward. They over-explain. They reveal more than intended. Every pause increases perceived value. Every pause asserts dominance. Repeat, pause, pressure, power. Here's a real-world example. Top sales leaders often wait silently after presenting an offer. The client, uncomfortable with silence, rushes to fill the gap, often agreeing to terms they wouldn't have otherwise. Pause creates psychological leverage. Silence commands attention. Timing enforces respect. This is not luck, it is discipline in action. You have a choice. React to fill silence or use it to gain advantage. That's the key. Repeat, pause, pressure, power. Another truth. Mastering the pause is about controlling your impulses. Most people react immediately to challenge, question, or criticism. They explain, justify, and defend unnecessarily. That is weakness disguised as action. Discipline over reaction. Calm over impulsivity. Every pause strengthens authority. Every carefully timed response reinforces mastery. Repeat: pause, pressure, power. Here's a behavioral instruction. Implement the 3-second pause rule. Before responding to any question, statement, or demand, silently count to 3. Observe your breathing. Observe the other person's reaction. Notice the shift in energy. Notice the increased attentiveness. Then speak. Every deliberate pause increases influence. Every thoughtless reaction diminishes it. You have a choice: act hastily or command through timing. That's the key. Repeat: pause, pressure, power. Here's the mindset shift. Authority is earned in the spaces between words. Most people believe influence comes from what they say, not from when they say it. That is a fundamental flaw. Silence creates tension. Timing amplifies impact. Discipline transforms words into weapons. Control over your own tempo communicates confidence. Control over others' tempo creates leverage. Repeat: pause, pressure, power. Let's address a common flaw: fear of silence. People panic in quiet moments. They fill every second with chatter, explanations, and overreactions. Silence feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort is your advantage. The moment others feel tension, they reveal priorities, weaknesses, and intentions. Every pause is an opportunity. Every hasty word is lost leverage. You have a choice: fill the space or use it. That's the key. Repeat: pause, pressure, power. Another practical exercise: the pre-answer pause. In any meeting, negotiation, or discussion, pause for 3 full seconds before responding to questions or statements. Let energy build. Let attention focus. Observe reactions. People unconsciously speak to fill the silence, giving away information, adjusting positions, or revealing motives. Pause strategically. Let pressure accumulate. Convert it into influence. Repeat: pause, pressure, power. Here's a real-world application. Military leaders use pauses before issuing commands. Investors pause before executing trades. Top negotiators pause before final offers. Every pause is deliberate. Every pause shifts power. Every pause signals mastery. Impulsive people act. Disciplined people pause and dominate. Timing is not passive. It is active leverage. You have a choice: react without thought or act with precision. That's the key. Repeat: pause, pressure, power. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Observe your natural impulses. Resist the urge to speak immediately. Count, breathe, and assess. Implement deliberate pauses before speaking, negotiating, or acting. Notice reactions. Notice tension. Notice influence. Silence is not emptiness. It is a tool. Timing is not hesitation. It is power. Discipline transforms pauses into authority. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat: pause, pressure, power. You mastered observation, energy, stillness, and strategic words. Now master timing. Pause deliberately. Apply pressure subtly. Harness power silently. Influence without noise. Command without argument. Let every pause be purposeful. Let every silence be a weapon. Pause, pressure, power.
Listen carefully. Consistency is quiet power. Most people chase attention. They seek recognition. They announce every small achievement. They act sporadically. They burn energy in bursts. They fizzle out. Influence does not come from chaos or noise. Influence comes from steady, disciplined action. You have a choice. You can be loud and erratic, or you can be silent and consistent. That's the key. It's not about showing off. It's about doing. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Repeat.
Consistency whispers. Results shout. Here's the first truth. Silent, repeated actions build authority over time. Athletes who train daily, creators who produce relentlessly, leaders who lead steadily, these are the ones who dominate their fields. Their power is invisible until it manifests in results. The world notices outcomes, not promises. You have a choice: overpromise and underdeliver, or act silently and deliver consistently. That's the key. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Identify the area where you want influence, mastery, or results. Step 2. Create a system. Daily actions, measurable steps, discipline over inspiration. Step 3. Commit without announcing. Avoid the urge to show off every step. Focus on execution. Let results do the talking. Every action compounds. Every repetition builds momentum. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Here's a real-world example. Consider professional athletes. No one sees the thousands of hours spent practicing shots, lifting weights, or studying opponents. No one sees the quiet routine repeated day after day. What the world sees is a perfect performance, precision, dominance, mastery. That perfection is built silently. Behind every visible result is invisible consistency. You have a choice: seek attention now or build authority silently for long-term impact. That's the key. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Another truth. Consistency creates trust. People trust those who reliably deliver. Sporadic effort undermines credibility. Noise and hype cannot replace reliability. Leaders, entrepreneurs, and creators who maintain steady output cultivate respect and loyalty. Their influence grows silently but steadily. Discipline over distraction, patience over impulsivity. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Here's a behavioral instruction. Implement the daily minimum principle. Identify one small but meaningful action in your area of focus. Commit to it daily without exception. Do not announce it. Do not wait for motivation. Action builds momentum. Momentum builds influence. Track results silently. Observe growth over time. Influence is the sum of repeated effort, not dramatic displays. You have a choice: random bursts or disciplined repetition. That's the key. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Here's the mindset shift. Consistency is underrated because it is quiet. Most people are seduced by drama, hype, and immediate recognition. That is a fundamental flaw. True power is invisible until it manifests. It is built in the hours when no one is watching. It is reinforced by repetition, patience, and discipline. You do not need permission to act consistently. You do not need validation to keep showing up. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Let's address a common flaw: impatience. People want immediate results. They try once, fail, and give up. That destroys influence. That squanders potential. Authority is earned one action at a time. Momentum is built one repetition at a time. Ignore the noise of others. Ignore the rush for attention. Focus on your daily actions. Let results accumulate. Let power emerge silently. You have a choice: quit early or persist silently. That's the key. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Here's another practical exercise: the 90-day focus. Choose one skill, habit, or project. Commit to daily, disciplined action for 90 consecutive days. Track results privately. Observe growth. Avoid announcing progress to others. Let your skill, your influence, your results speak louder than words. Every day reinforces mastery. Every day compounds impact. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. Here's a real-world application. Creators who post daily, authors who write steadily, and leaders who lead reliably all achieve lasting influence. Their followers, colleagues, and competitors notice patterns.
Silent repetition builds trust, authority, and dominance. Results shout where words cannot. Your reputation is the accumulation of invisible effort. Noise is temporary, consistent action endures. You have a choice: flashy inconsistencies or disciplined, quiet power. That's the key. Repeat. Consistency whispers, results shout. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Identify your focus. Build a system of daily action. Avoid seeking approval. Ignore external validation. Commit silently. Repeat actions consistently. Track results privately. Observe progress. Let every small, repeated step build leverage. Every action compounds. Every repetition strengthens influence. Authority is earned silently, manifested visibly. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat. Consistency whispers. Results shout. You mastered stillness, timing, presence, and deliberate words. Now master the quiet rhythm of disciplined action. Commit to repetition. Focus on the long game. Build influence silently. Execute consistently. Let results shout where words fail. Discipline over impulse. Action over explanation. Consistency whispers. Results shout.
Listen closely. Don't wait for approval. Don't wait for recognition. Most people stall because they seek permission. They hesitate. They over-explain. They ask, "Is this okay?" or "Do you approve?" They wait for validation before acting. That's weakness disguised as caution. You have a choice. You can wait for permission, or you can command silently. That's the key. It's not about defiance. It's about disciplined initiative. Take control quietly. Repeat. Take control quietly. Here's the first truth. Authority is often granted after action, not before. Innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders who succeed rarely wait for bureaucracy or recognition. They act decisively within their sphere of influence. Their results force acknowledgement. Their power is undeniable. Waiting for approval slows you down. Acting within your authority accelerates mastery. You have a choice. Be reactive or proactive. That's the key. Repeat. Take control quietly. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Identify your area of influence, your project, team, skill, or role. Step 2. List actions you can take independently without needing external approval. Step 3. Execute silently. Document results. Avoid announcing effort. Let outcomes speak for themselves. Action without permission demonstrates competence. Results force respect. Repeat. Take control quietly. Here's a real-world example. Consider innovators in technology. They bypass slow committees and bureaucracy. They release products quietly. They test, iterate, and scale. Recognition follows, but it is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. Waiting for approval delays progress. Acting within your authority accelerates mastery. You have a choice. Be stagnant under rules or move decisively within your domain. That's the key. Repeat. Take control quietly. Another truth. Waiting for permission signals insecurity. People perceive hesitation as weakness. Authority attracts attention only when it is exercised. Silent execution builds influence faster than announcements, debates, or explanations. You don't need validation to act. You don't need permission to lead your sphere. Discipline over approval. Confidence over hesitation. Repeat. Take control quietly. Here's a behavioral instruction. Implement the silent initiative principle. Choose one task or decision you normally wait to get approval for. Act on it quietly, without alerting anyone. Document results. Observe reactions. Most will respect the outcome, even if they initially resist. Some will follow your lead silently. Every independent action reinforces authority. Every delayed action undermines it. You have a choice. Wait for approval or command without it. That's the key. Repeat. Take control quietly. Here's the mindset shift. Power is not granted.
It is exercised. Most people believe leadership requires permission. That is a fundamental flaw. True authority comes from taking initiative responsibly, quietly, without noise, without excuses. Influence is earned in actions, not in explanations. Every small, independent decision reinforces confidence. Every hesitation diminishes it. You have a choice: act decisively or remain powerless. That's the key. Repeat, take control quietly. Let's address a common flaw: fear of pushback. People worry that acting without permission will offend others or create resistance. That fear paralyzes. But consider this: silence and results are more persuasive than permission seeking. Executing responsibly within your domain commands respect. Pushback is often noise, results are leverage. Discipline over fear, initiative over hesitation. Repeat, take control quietly. Here's another practical exercise: the Independent Action Challenge. Identify 3 actions in your current work, project, or personal life that you usually seek approval for. For the next week, take these actions independently. Track outcomes silently. Observe the shift in perception. Notice how respect grows when you act decisively. Notice how influence accumulates when you bypass unnecessary permission. Every choice reinforces authority. Repeat, take control quietly. Here's a real-world application. Consider small business owners and innovators who bypass rules temporarily to test ideas. They execute quickly, solve problems, and present solutions. Recognition and acknowledgement follow, but only after they demonstrate results. Waiting for approval would have delayed progress. Commanding within your authority accelerates growth. Discipline converts initiative into influence. You have a choice: act within limits or wait for permission. That's the key. Repeat, take control quietly. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Identify areas where you habitually seek permission. Determine what you can act on independently. Execute silently. Document results. Avoid announcements. Observe reactions. Influence grows with action, not words. Authority is earned through execution, not approval. Every independent choice strengthens your presence. Every delayed decision diminishes it. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat, take control quietly. You mastered stillness, timing, presence, consistency, and deliberate action. Now master initiative without permission. Act decisively within your sphere. Execute silently. Influence through results, not announcements. Command without noise. Lead without waiting. Take control quietly.
Listen closely. The real advantage is invisible. Most people chase recognition. They seek applause. They act publicly, seeking validation at every step. That is weakness. True power lies in preparation, patience, and strategy, things no one sees. You have a choice. You can act for attention, or you can act for results. That's the key. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Here's the first truth. The unseen effort precedes every visible victory. Chess grandmasters study patterns, anticipate moves, and prepare for possibilities no one else notices. Athletes train in silence for hours before performing under the spotlight. Innovators develop prototypes and test quietly long before the market applauds. Results appear effortless, but they are built on invisible groundwork. You have a choice: seek immediate recognition or master the unseen edge. That's the key. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Identify your invisible edge, the preparation, research, or strategic work that others ignore. Step 2. Commit to it daily. Make it a private discipline. Step 3. Execute without announcing progress. Let outcomes manifest naturally. Every quiet effort compounds over time. Every unnoticed detail builds leverage. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Here's a real-world example. Consider entrepreneurs launching disruptive technology. Competitors announce intentions, seek approval, and chase attention. The successful entrepreneur studies quietly, tests quietly, prepares quietly. Then, one day, results are undeniable. Recognition follows. Influence is earned silently. Preparation and patience are the invisible edge. You have a choice: chase applause or build unseen advantage. That's the key. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Another truth: invisible effort generates resilience. People who rely on visible recognition are fragile. Their motivation depends on external approval. When attention fades, they crumble. Those who cultivate the invisible edge are self-reliant. Their strength is internal. Their results are independent of acknowledgement. Discipline over approval. Patience over impatience. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Here's a behavioral instruction. Implement the hidden hour principle. Dedicate 1 extra hour daily to silent improvement in your craft, your skill, or your work. Avoid announcing it. Track progress privately. After weeks and months, observe the shift in outcomes. The visible results will astonish those who ignored your quiet effort. Every invisible hour compounds. Every repetition reinforces mastery. You have a choice: act publicly or refine silently. That's the key. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Here's the mindset shift. Don't crave recognition for every step. Most of life's leverage comes from the unseen. Chess grandmasters, athletes, innovators, and leaders all rely on this principle. They act without applause, prepare without notice, and anticipate outcomes before anyone else sees. Waiting for acknowledgement is a flaw. Discipline builds the invisible advantage. Patience allows it to mature. Results are the final proof. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Let's address a common flaw: impatience. People rush to show progress. They announce half-finished work. They broadcast intentions. That exposes weaknesses and invites criticism. The truly powerful act quietly. They refine, prepare, and strengthen before revealing results. Waiting silently is not inaction, it is strategic. Invisible effort compounds into visible success. You have a choice: rush for attention or master the hidden edge. That's the key. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Here's a real-world application. Consider top negotiators. They know the agenda, anticipate objections, and prepare responses silently. At the negotiation table, they speak little, yet their influence dominates. Their power comes from the invisible edge. Silent preparation multiplies impact. Acting without announcement demonstrates authority. You have a choice: be reactive and visible, or be strategic and unseen. That's the key. Repeat, invisible wins visible. Now, let's consolidate the lesson. Identify your invisible edge. Commit to quiet preparation, refinement, and practice. Avoid announcements. Track progress privately. Build patience into your strategy. Anticipate challenges before others see them. Strength accumulates silently. Results appear effortless because the work was unseen. Every silent effort compounds. Every unnoticed detail strengthens leverage. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat, invisible wins visible. You mastered presence, timing, consistency, and initiative. Now master the quiet, unseen preparation that creates unstoppable results. Build your invisible edge. Act silently. Refine relentlessly. Anticipate skillfully. Let outcomes reveal your authority. You have a choice: chase applause or wield silent power.
Listen closely. The ultimate command is not in speaking. It is not in explaining. It is not in being seen. True power and true legacy comes from impact without noise. Most people believe words make history.
Most people believe recognition equals authority. That is flawed thinking. History remembers deeds, influence, and outcomes long after the words have faded. You have a choice. You can seek attention or build enduring influence. That's the key. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Here's the first truth. Those who leave the deepest mark act silently. They perform in silence. They serve quietly. They create without announcement. Consider historical figures whose influence grew decades after their time. Their words were fleeting. Their actions were eternal. Their silence amplified their legacy. You have a choice. Chase noise or build lasting value. That's the key. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Focus on contribution, not recognition. Identify what you want to leave behind: skills, knowledge, influence, or systems. Step 2. Work quietly on it daily. Step 3. Let the results speak for themselves. Avoid broadcasting progress or seeking applause. True impact does not require validation. Every quiet act compounds over time. Every selfless effort grows influence silently. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Here's a real-world example. Consider inventors, scientists, and leaders remembered not for speeches but for tangible change. Nikola Tesla's ideas reshaped technology, yet he rarely sought fame. Rosa Parks changed history with a single act of courage. Their influence was amplified because it came from action, not announcement. Words fade, actions persist. You have a choice. Act for show or act for enduring impact. That's the key. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Another truth, silence builds anticipation and authority. People who constantly talk diminish their long-term influence. Their noise competes with substance. Those who act silently create a magnetic effect. Others watch, wait, and ultimately follow. Discipline over chatter, patience over impatience. Quiet action compounds power. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Here's a behavioral instruction. Implement the quiet daily legacy routine. Dedicate time each day to meaningful, skillful, or impactful work. Avoid sharing updates, announcements, or progress. Let outcomes accumulate privately. After months and years, your influence will expand without self-promotion. Every quiet effort strengthens reputation. Every noisy effort risks dilution. You have a choice. Speak to be noticed or act to be remembered. That's the key. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Here's a mindset shift. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most remembered. Influence and legacy are earned through consistency, reliability, and silent mastery. Speak less, deliver more, act with purpose. Every completed task, every refined skill, every small impact compounds over time. History remembers outcomes, not explanations. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Let's address a common flaw: impatience. People want recognition now. They announce achievements prematurely. They broadcast intentions before completion. That diminishes impact. The truly powerful wait. They build quietly. They act deliberately. The visible legacy appears effortless because the work behind it was unseen. Every silent effort accumulates authority. You have a choice. Chase applause or build lasting influence. That's the key. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Another practical exercise, the quiet monument principle. Choose one project, skill, or area of influence. Work on it daily for the next 30 days without sharing updates or seeking feedback. Track progress privately. Observe how over time mastery, influence, and authority grow silently. Each invisible step strengthens your long-term legacy. Action outweighs announcement. Results outweigh rhetoric. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Here's a real-world application. Consider global leaders, artists, and change-makers. Their speeches fade. Their written words are read selectively. Their influence endures because they acted, persisted, and solved real problems. Influence is built in the shadows of effort. Legacy is silent, patient, and enduring. You have a choice: broadcast now or leave a lasting mark. That's the key. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. Now, let's consolidate the lesson. Focus on quiet, consistent impact. Prioritize meaningful work over validation. Avoid explanations, announcements, and premature recognition. Track progress privately. Deliver results consistently. Refine skills diligently. Build systems, influence, and habits that last beyond your words. Every silent effort compounds influence. Every deliberate action strengthens authority. Every unannounced achievement becomes a monument of legacy. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. You mastered presence, patience, initiative, invisible preparation, and decisive action. Now master the art of enduring influence. Build silently. Act deliberately. Focus on outcomes, not applause. Let results carry authority. Let actions dictate respect. Let silence amplify legacy. You don't need recognition now. You don't need permission. You have the power to leave an impact that lasts far beyond your words. That's the final command. Repeat, legacy is louder than speech. This is your path to quiet mastery.
Listen carefully. Words are cheap. Promises are cheap. Declarations are cheap. What lasts is action. What commands respect is follow-through. Most people speak more than they do. They explain endlessly. They announce intentions. They broadcast plans. They expect acknowledgement. That is weakness disguised as ambition. You have a choice. You can talk endlessly, or you can act decisively. That's the key. Repeat, do, don't declare. Here's the first truth. People remember deeds, not speeches. Leaders who change the world are remembered for results, not rhetoric. Business leaders remembered decades later for legacy were silent in their process, loud only in their outcomes. Athletes remembered are those who performed consistently, not those who promised to perform. Every action builds authority. Every empty statement erodes it. You have a choice. Act quietly or talk loudly. That's the key. Repeat, do, don't declare. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Review your current commitments. Identify promises you've made, intentions you've stated, or goals you've declared publicly. Step 2. Align these with measurable actions. Step 3. Execute quietly, consistently, and visibly through results, not announcements. Avoid seeking applause during execution. Let the outcome carry the message. Every silent achievement compounds authority. Every delayed action diminishes it. Repeat, do, don't declare. Here's a real-world example. Consider military leaders throughout history. Generals who are remembered are those who led decisive campaigns, not those who gave grand speeches. Their influence stemmed from action, planning, and execution. Soldiers and allies respected the outcomes, not the promises. Waiting for recognition or approval would have cost them victories. Actions dictate respect. Words only fill space. You have a choice. Act decisively or talk endlessly. That's the key. Repeat, do, don't declare. Another truth. Speaking more than acting is a signal of insecurity. People who over-explain reveal doubt. People who act decisively demonstrate certainty. Influence flows from execution, not declarations. Discipline over performative communication. Confidence over empty words. Every action taken without announcing it builds internal and external authority. Every announcement without action erodes credibility. Repeat, do, don't declare. Here's a behavioral instruction. Implement the silent delivery principle. Identify one project, responsibility, or relationship in which you usually talk more than act. For the next week, focus only on measurable action. Deliver results quietly. Document outcomes privately. Observe reactions. Authority will rise without a single declaration. Influence will grow without additional explanations. You have a choice. Speak to be seen or act to be respected. That's the key. Repeat, do, don't declare. Here's the mindset shift. Respect cannot be commanded with words. It can only be earned through action. Leaders who attempt to assert influence through rhetoric alone will fail. Authority manifests through follow-through, consistency, and silent execution. Every completed task builds a foundation of respect. Every unexecuted promise erodes it. Action is tangible. Words are ephemeral. Repeat, do, don't declare. Let's address a common flaw: over-explaining. Most people feel compelled to justify effort before outcomes. They speak in anticipation of recognition. They reveal strategy before execution. That invites criticism and reduces leverage. The powerful act silently. They execute and results speak. Waiting for applause is weakness. Command respect with deeds. You have a choice. Justify constantly or deliver relentlessly. That's the key. Repeat, do, don't declare. Another practical exercise, the results first method. For 1 week, track all your actions without announcing them. Each morning, list what you will do. Each evening, record what you completed. Avoid explaining or seeking acknowledgement. Review the week's results. Observe the shift in perception, yours and others. Action breeds respect silently. Announcement is optional. Repeat, do, don't declare. Here's a real-world application. Consider innovators and creators. They release products, deliver services, and solve problems quietly. Their market notice comes from results, not promises. Recognition follows mastery, not declarations. Those who talk endlessly are left behind. Those who act decisively gain respect without demanding it. Action dictates influence. Words only echo. You have a choice. Speak to be seen or act to be respected. That's the key. Repeat, do, don't declare. Now let's consolidate the lesson. Identify areas where talk exceeds action. Focus on measurable, quiet execution. Avoid announcements, explanations, or apologies for outcomes. Track progress privately. Deliver results visibly but silently. Build credibility through achievement. Authority grows through follow-through. Influence is earned through consistent action. Every deed reinforces respect. Every unfulfilled promise erodes it. You have a choice. That's the key. Repeat, do, don't declare. You mastered patience, preparation, initiative, and the unseen edge. Now master the principle that action alone commands respect. Act decisively. Deliver results silently. Avoid over-explaining. Let results speak. Lead through deeds, not words. Influence silently. Respect follows action, not declaration. You have a choice. Speak to be heard or act to be respected.
Command isn't loud. Command isn't flashy. Command is silent, deliberate, unstoppable. You've learned to stop proving, to pause, to watch, to wait, to act only when it counts. You've learned that silence is louder than words, that presence is heavier than noise, and that patience is more powerful than panic. Now take this knowledge, apply it. Let every word, every action, every pause build your invisible authority. The world will notice without a sound. But the question is this: will you step into it, Or will you go back to chasing approval, reacting, and explaining? Choose today. Command without noise. Start now.